I'm Cajun. I grew up on a really, really rich diet, and my degree's in aerospace engineering. So I love math and physics. And after college, I was in the Air Force for a while. I served in Iraq at the beginning of the war. And I got out and I ended up in Texas because I got an engineering job at Bell Helicopter. And after I got out of the military, I stopped exercising. I didn't like getting up at 5 a.m. And I had a terrible diet, and it was all kind of catching up to me. And so this is what I looked like in 2005. I was overweight, never ever had a thought about my health, or like the food I was eating, I would say, until this time. And what you see here, I had stage 4 endometriosis and ovarian and uterine cysts, and I had my breasts were full of fibroids. I had 7, and just all sorts of problems. I was on cholesterol medication, blood pressure medication. I was a mess. And I remember going to the doctor, and he said, there's no cure for what you have. You're going to need a full hysterectomy. And I was 27 years old at the time, and I was like, oh, I wanted to have kids. And he said, oh, no, you're completely infertile. You'll never have children, and all this. So I was devastated, and but my mom really wanted grandkids, so she made me go see a nutritionist. At the time, it was actually a macrobiotic nutritionist, if you're familiar. But she is the one I credit for completely changing my diet. She also introduced me to Salad Master at the time. I wasn't involved with Salad Master, but that was when I started cooking in it. And I went whole food plant-based, and within 6 weeks, it's a long story, but within 6 weeks, we were able to reverse it all. I went in for the hysterectomy, and he said, oh, like 95% of your active endo is gone, but you had a lot of scarring and adhesions. And I remember thinking to myself, I was disappointed. I'm like, shoot, I have to keep eating like this forever, and I don't know how. I'm in Texas, and people are making fun of me. So anyway, I stayed on it, and it took me 6 months to really surrender and buy in. And over that time, I lost about 50 pounds. I got healthy. I've had some kids since then, so I don't look that thin, but I like to use this picture. Okay, and so and then I went on, here's the rest of my story. I'm sorry about my animations, y'all. So I have a lot of boys. I have 4 boys at home. The oldest there is my bonus child. My husband lost his first wife, so I've got a 23-year-old son at home. But the ones that I birthed, my miracle babies, are 6. Now everybody's born in September. Hold on. So they're 6, 10, and 12 now. And so every time I look at them, I am reminded of the power of this diet, and it's my constant motivation. Okay, so that's my health story. My business story, like after all of these great changes started happening, I thought, oh my gosh, like, why we're telling women there's no cure for this, and then someone just helped me heal it. So I think I need to leave engineering and go to school for nutrition. And so I started studying nutrition a lot, went through the Cornell program and some other programs, and eventually I found Food for Life. I became an instructor in 2008, and I swear the only reason they accepted me, they told me later I was the only applicant in the entire state of Texas. So that's how I got it. I feel really, really lucky. So I worked with Neil a bunch. If you read The Cheese Trap, that's my story in like chapter 3, I think, or the one who's addicted to mac and cheese. That's me. So this was 2008. I started teaching Food for Life programs in classes, and then I went on to work with, while I was doing that, I started working with Dr. Campbell, and I was teaching and managing his eCornell program. And I loved it, but it was all online. And so for me, like, I really like to be out in the community, like I was with my Food for Life classes, but I just couldn't figure out how to support myself with it. I hadn't had kids yet at this point, and I was like, well, how do I provide income? And I just love teaching. So I was doing this online thing for the plant-based course, but it wasn't my calling. Like, my calling is face-to-face with people, teaching, and really seeing the excitement and giving them the food. And so I said, okay, I got to figure out how to do my Food for Life classes all the time. Like, I want that to be my job, and I need something that can sustain me. And so I'm going to talk about this journey. I started looking for a product. product that was aligned with what I do. And that's how I decided to be a part of Salad Master. Now I'm going to tell you why and all my hesitations, and then some great things that came from it. And so our Salad Master dealership is called Food Saved Me, and we opened it in 2014. And when I started, people told me, I said, I'm going to build this on nutrition classes. I don't know how to sell anything, but I know how to teach. And so I made the Salad Master demo it was just basically like a private teaching session, in my opinion, and people can buy or not buy, it doesn't matter. But I had a lot of people come up to me and they're like, nobody wants nutrition. You're going to fail at this. You're not going to be able to build a business. And I was like, well, okay, well, this is the only thing that I know how to do. So we're going to see what happens. So our dealership, we're actually a 3-part dealership. We teach nutrition classes. We have Food Save Me Gives Back, where we donate to local charities, and we have awareness campaigns and things like that to support some local nonprofits too. And then we sell the Salad Master cookware. So that's the structure, and that's how I always refer to my business. We are a 3-part business, but our heart is about helping people change their health through nutrition and pouring back into our community. So that's always been our mission, and we're always kind of like the weird ones, right, in the company. And so the core beliefs that we have is that I believe it is a really important value to me that nutrition education should be free and accessible to anyone and everyone who wants it. And so we really focus, when we talk about our business, we're bridging that gap between nutrition science and it getting out to the community. We're trying to shorten that. We talk a lot about corporate social responsibility and pouring into our community with these free classes. And we really try to position ourselves as a resource to the community. And that is why a lot of our customers do business with us, because they see our heart and they see how much we're giving through our nutrition education. And my personal mission is just to make everybody whole food plant-based, right? And in Texas, oh Lord, you should know, I'm not in Austin. Everybody thinks of Texas and they think Austin. No, the rest of Texas, not. Austin is more like California, I would say, like very, very open to this way of eating. But in Texas, I'm in North Texas, like Dallas, Fort Worth area. 15 years ago, nobody wanted to have these conversations with me. But that was my personal mission. I was like, I'm going to get them. So that's what we did. So this is, the part of Texas that I'm from, or that I live in, is Dallas-Fort Worth. So this is known as Cowtown. And that's what it's called. People are proud of that. They're like, well, we're from Cowtown. And so I felt very alone when I started teaching back in 2008. And I realized pretty quickly I'm going to have to build a community, because students that were coming to my classes, like when I could beg them, they were also feeling alone and isolated. And so we put a lot of work in the beginning. We had to do a lot of free work to just get our name out there, and so people would know that we're here and what we're doing. We hosted a Plant Pure Pod for years until COVID. We have documentary nights at our office, like once a month we'll feature a whole food plant-based documentary. I do a lot of like podcast interviews and things like that, providing content. We'd have a newsletter, just helping to build it, because truly the best people to fill my future classes are current and prior students. And so we really try to make an effort to stay connected with our prior students, as far as like, hey, would you host a class for us? Or will you invite your friends? Or, what topics do you think people would be most interested in? And so I think as a small business owner, it really helped us to create our own community, because at the time in Texas, we couldn't find it. Luckily, there's a lot more of us here now. And so there are ideas for overcoming costs, and I used to do this a lot before I started a business on the classes. When I was just teaching, I was constantly trying to find ways. And so I would buy books from the publisher, and because you can get them at a discount and sell those in class. And even though there's Amazon and libraries and all that, people wanted to support us. And so they would just buy the books there. They get excited. They buy like 10 books and they go home with them. It's instant gratification. So that was a good way for me to help me overcome grocery costs. I would always ask for donations if they wanted to support future classes. We talked with grocery stores a lot about sponsoring just the groceries, or sometimes our local grocery stores would provide like coupons for the students who attended, and that would help us get more attendance. Our venues, we asked them to provide the serving products, and things like that, and especially when it was at the office. We did ask for angel donors, and I do this a lot for the cancer class, the nutrition and cancer prevention and survival. I like for everyone that comes to that class to have the book, and so we still try to get donors for that. So someone covers the books so that everybody's got Cancer Survivor's Guide, since that class has so many patients in it. And then we would have retreats with partners and, like-minded communities, like yoga, meditation, and all those types of things. And that really helped us to overcome the initial costs of being able to teach classes. And then we had some real champions. And it's nice to see, like, when you're doing something good in the community, people see it, and good people begin to be attracted to you and to the work you're doing, and become your champions. But ultimately, to do things on the scale that I wanted to, I needed to find a product that aligned with what I was teaching, that I felt good about. And I don't talk about it in class. I'm going to talk about that in a second. But I needed to find a product because I wanted to do, my classes. I was struggling to find students, but we eventually did with the community, but then I was struggling to make a living at this with the classes. And I knew, okay, I could charge for the classes. And I think that's awesome. I have a good friend, Joanne Irwin. She went through training with me in '08. And I know she charges for her classes in Naples and Cape Cod's, and to tremendous success there. I know she has a waiting list for her classes. And I felt like, well, I had eventually we got this big office, and I thought, well, I just want to fill it all the time. I think this can be a good business model where one aspect feeds the other, and then it's just, we just have this perfect synergy. So I decided, okay, I want to keep the classes free so I can be in front of as many people as possible. And so so this is our model for what we've used for Food Save Me. So our nutrition classes, we market to get new students through social media and advertising and the websites and all that. But then all of our events, like if we're tabling or at health fairs for Salad Master anyway, we are marketing our nutrition classes. And then also our owners, our customers in Salad Master. I'm going to talk about that a little bit if I have time at the end. We use them to book classes. Every time someone invests in Salad Master, I stop and talk to them on the dinner. I say, hey, I told you, we have this extra part of our business with nutrition classes. I know that you know people who need this information, or maybe like, where do you work? And, you work at such and such. Do y'all do corporate wellness? Are you looking for programs and things like that? And so some of my best nutrition classes have come from my customers. And it's nice because it creates this circle. So it just grows and grows and grows. So for our nutrition classes, my first goal is always to just get more nutrition classes so I can get the message out there. And then I'll tell you how we present the Salad Master dinner. We keep that separate. But ultimately, when I'm using the food processor and things in class, people ask questions. So I tell them, like, we'll address it at the end after we're totally done. But every time I get a Salad Master dinner, that means that we have more income coming in to support more and more and more nutrition classes. And we have a big demo kitchen, so we could hold classes with 30, 40, 50 people at a time. And what happened from there was really lovely. People would come to our nutrition classes and say, I want to be a part of this. I want to be a part of what you're doing. But I need some part-time income. And so they would join our business. And I've been able to work with a lot of, really nice, like-minded people who are mission driven, which is so refreshing. And then here's our sales funnel, kind of how it works from a business perspective. When I'm trying to explain to people, they're like, what do you do? So we do, I don't even know how to explain this simply, but you can see it. We constantly have new leads coming in, and anyone that we talk to, no matter where we are, if we're on a Salad Master dinner or teaching a class or at a health fair, it doesn't matter. We always have classes scheduled, and so we're constantly providing, hey, here's our nutrition classes. Hey, here's our nutrition classes. There's 13 Salad Master dealers in Dallas-Fort Worth. And while it wasn't my initial objective, it ended up being a significant advantage. The fact that we offer nutrition and care about nutrition has been a huge differentiator for us amongst the other dealers. And I would say amongst other products too, because we, like, as a business, as a dealership, we add more value because, wow, we're also like I'm interested in what kind of pans you're going to cook in, but truly I'm more interested in what you're putting in that pan. And that's what we need to talk about. And so here in Texas, I've learned to meet people where they're at. And then my goal is you need to come to the nutrition classes. We're going to work on what you're eating. Try to get them Whole Foods. Okay. So I'm very competitive. I don't know if that's military me or what, but I had 2 drivers. I was like, okay, if we're going to do this, I had so many hesitations. I'll tell you, I had so many hesitations about, I was like, I don't know how to sell anything. I'm like an engineer in the cubicle. I'm really shy and introverted. And, but my calling to share on nutrition is so strong. It just overrode all of my fears. And what I wanted the most, I wanted to succeed in this business because I wanted a seat at the table. I wanted to be able to influence where the company was going from a corporate level. And I wanted to show other dealers, my peers, you should really be talking about nutrition and the food that's going into that pan, because it's tragic in a lot of cases. And so that was my main driver, was to have that voice. I told my husband, Matt, I was like, we're going to get to the top because they'll listen to the top people in the company, right? And I can show them, hey, this business model works and it benefits everybody. And you can build teams on it, and then you can pour into your community. And ultimately, I just want more people to be vegan. And so every time we make a decision for our business, we are ultimately looking at what is the number of people that we're going to be exposed to that we can possibly, plant that seed, or maybe plant another seed if they've already had a few, right? Okay, so this is the part where it's awkward. I just want to show you, we did really well. So there's 500 dealerships, and for 8 years in a row, we're in the top 25. We're always that weird nutrition dealership, which is fine. But what we were it allowed us to have a voice. We did it. It allowed us to have a voice with corporate and say, hey, we need to be talking about nutrition. Our company needs to have a position on nutrition. And what we showed them is that through offering nutrition classes and contributing to our community in this way, since our classes were free, we as a business bring more to the table than just cookware. And this would apply to any business, right? It doesn't have to be Salad Master. But that's what people want. They don't want to be sold something. Our community in Dallas-Fort Worth sees us as a resource, as an ally. They come to us with questions that I don't know what kind of air filter or whatever, but they see us as a resource, right? They're just constantly coming. So they come to us for help, and they also see us as a small business with a worthy cause that they want to support. And so here's the prize. It's not being at the top of the company. It's that having this business has allowed, this is just me personally, not any of the other instructors who teach at our physical office, just me personally. I've been able to teach 20,000 students in person at our office, all for free. So there's no reason why somebody can't come or why the spouse can't come. We create like beautiful handouts with recipes, and they pretty much get a full meal every time. And that just feeds my soul. That's the point of all of this. And it took me a minute. It actually took me 7 years to be exact, to go from just teaching my classes to realize, like, there's nothing wrong with owning a business and having an income, because it means that I truly get to influence more people and I have a louder voice. And so that's really what drove me. So we've been able to influence Salad Master Corporate and other dealers. And I wanted to show you this. Some of you know Isis Israel. She's a dealer in Northern California. But just in February, Salad Master Corporate, there's a national, like a North America rally. I think it had 2,000 people at it. Corporate asked us, please educate the dealers on plant-based nutrition. Please tell them what they should be eating and what they shouldn't eat. And there were some awkward silences and grunts in the room. But the fact that this major international company said, we want to give you this exposure, and we want to stand by you and say that, I was like, wow, that's the voice we've been wanting. And so what's funny is now everybody wants nutrition classes, and I'm like, that's fine. If you're teaching people how to eat more veggies, that's amazing. I got your attention, but I had to build a successful business to do it. And this is just some of our team, but that's just my reminder. So we have about 35 on our team. But it's just my reminder that it's so lovely to work with people who are mission focused, and they just want to help people. Okay. So I just want to clarify, whatever your business is, we don't talk about it in the class. I'm not advocating for that. I think that's really important that we are just doing the Food for Life classes. And I always I use it, but when they ask me about it, I'm like, no, well, I'll share it with you at the end. If you want to stay. And so once the class is over, I make sure all the questions are answered, everything's done. I usually just say, okay, several of you asked about this food processor I'm using. I just want to take a few minutes and I'll tell you how to get one for yourself. And then I pass around a sign-up sheet, and that's it. And I think because they've spent 2 hours or more listening to me talk about nutrition, they have an idea of my personality. I have credibility with them, and I really don't need to sell anything. I just let them know, hey, if you want me to follow up with you, then sign up here and I'll call you later. And we've been able to reach so many more people than we would have. And so nutrition is my mission, and Salad Master is my vehicle. So my biggest challenge, Sonia wanted me to talk about, I'll make sure I have time. My biggest challenge was always marketing and filling classes. So I started to track patterns and stuff, go into my engineering nature. But I decided to be more strategic about where I teach. And I'll talk about that in a second with demographics. And I really, to overcome my marketing shortcomings, I pursue groups that have mailing lists, so we can cross promote, so I can just send them something like, oh yeah, we emailed it out to people, 35 people are coming to your office for class. I'm like, awesome. And so some of those where we really like to partner with are like planned neighborhoods. There's a lot kind of in this area where they have like a little community space that's open to residents. And so they're always looking for content for their residents. Public libraries, recreation centers. We do a lot with churches, like during Lent and at the beginning of the year, a lot of churches in our area, they'll the whole church will do the Daniel diet or something for 3 weeks. They have periods of fasting and health weeks and things like health ministries, actually. We do a lot with adult education centers and then local nonprofits as well. And I really like to partner with doctors' offices because, y'all know that's where people go for nutrition, even though they haven't usually had much nutrition education. Something happens when a doctor stands up there and says, oh, I love Kathrine's classes and, you should pay attention to everything she says, right? It's just, I feel like those classes are, people are taking notes and they're more attentive. So I really am, and I'm also, I recognize the struggle that physicians have right now. Friends with several, as far as time with their patients. And so I present myself as a resource, let me help you out because this can add value to your practice, just the fact that you're letting me teach here. And then companies, I have to tell you, we went to, let me see here. So one of my customers is the VP of HR for 7-Eleven. And she's like, oh, I know about those nutrition classes you do. Will you come teach for our corporate staff? And I was like, do you know what I teach? I teach on nutrition and you're 7-Eleven. And so anyway, it was like a funny moment. And my husband Matt went with me and I taught a class there, and their corporate staff is so health conscious, incredibly health conscious. So we taught, they loved it, yada, yada. And then, but none of them were plant-based at the time. And she followed up with me 2 months after, and she said, hey, 3 of our executives went completely plant-based after your class, and they've lost this weight, and they're down on their medication and all this. She's like, you completely changed their life. It was so exciting. And I was like, oh, I hope you'll take those tips and incorporate them into your, your stores. But we do a lot of corporate stuff, just because that's nice. We have a rule, I don't teach a class without the next one already scheduled, or actually I try to do the entire next month, so I have a place to direct people and I can tell them hey, bring your friends and family to this one. I'm also strategic about the topics. I do groups, so what I mean by that, in October, I'm going to do, I'm just doing breast cancer. I'm just doing breast cancer prevention all October. I have a goal. I talk about my goal. I'm trying to book 10 classes in October. I think I only have 6 so far, but I'm just going to do all breast cancer, because if I do one topic and then another topic and then I'm just going to get the same group of people moving through them. And I'm not opposed to that, but I'm trying to get in front of, get the information going to as many people as possible. Because some will just, that 7-Eleven staff, they just take it and run with it and they can change their life. So I am sure. And one thing I learned with the business is that our best classes sometimes come from our Salad Master owners, from our customers. They see this as a tremendous benefit and value add to doing business with us. And so we actually have a program for them where they can get referral credit and stuff from our classes, from booking those. So what I had to do, it took me a while to figure out, was I had to identify the demographic, and as I was teaching classes when I started in 2008, I was like, okay, who's coming to these classes? Let me figure this out. And I started to notice that it was mainly women. was mainly women from 40 to 65. And most of these women were healthy, but those who had husbands were like, they were starting to notice, like they were there, I realized, because their husband, they're like, oh, you know, or their partner, like, well, my partner is having, is on high cholesterol medication now, or is having, you know, is just diagnosed with diabetes. And so I noticed that these women are, they're not really there. I mean, they want to learn, but they're advocating for like family members, which, and I thought, oh, wow, they really want to spread this information. The age of like retired or approaching retirement is like a typical person who would come to our classes. They are like you know, in Texas, like I had to be very careful when I said the word vegan. So I say whole food, plant-based a lot. And so once I realized like, oh, these are the people who are attracted to these nutrition classes here. And of course I want to be in front of everybody that I can, but this is who keeps showing up when I post a class. And so if you're looking at starting a business, I would first look at who's showing up to your classes and then find out, you know, where they hang out. Those are great places to teach and groups to partner with. But then are there any products or services on the market that align with your mission that you would feel good about people knowing that you're involved with that, so that you can find a product or service to create a business around while you're also teaching nutrition classes, and it can feed that for you. And then you get more classes and you get in front of more people and can really change so many more lives that way, I found. Okay. So it's hard. It was hard to build it. And I just want to acknowledge that, you know, we're all solopreneurs or entrepreneurs, or maybe you're like me. I left engineering and I was like, I'm going to do this crazy nutrition thing. And I had no idea what I was doing. I just had a whole lot of passion, right? And I just had a whole lot of love for it. And so I just want to acknowledge to you that it was challenging for me, but it's so fulfilling and rewarding. And so what got me through it, a couple of things. One is my faith, absolutely. Second is knowing that I'm teaching the truth. That's what keeps me going, those two things, because as you can imagine, 15 years ago in North Texas, I got a lot of opposition. And there were a lot of times where I felt like I was on an island, or maybe I'd have somebody in class who was like aggressive and challenging me before I really had the education and understanding to tackle those questions very well. And I would just have to remind myself, I'm teaching the truth. Like, and just because people don't know it yet, like because they haven't been exposed to the science, it doesn't change the science. And that is the exact point of why I'm here teaching this class, because these important nutrition messages are just being drowned out by all the other stuff that's confusing people. And so I just always remind myself, like, this is my calling. This is what I am here to do. And I know that I'm teaching the truth. And we're not going to wake up one day and all of a sudden it's news that fiber is bad for you or veggies are bad for you. Like, I know that's not coming. And so we're all in this together to just educate as many people as possible to fight that misinformation. Also, testimonials and reminders from former students. You know, when you teach long enough, ultimately you hear from them again. I have 12 that I know of, students who came to who had infertility. I didn't even know. Students who had infertility who came to diabetes reversal or cancer prevention, who later went on to have babies and would come and tell me or send me a note. Hey, I was infertile. I came to your class, did the whole vegan thing, and now I have a baby. I'm like, what? So I'm sure there's more out there that I don't know about. But those testimonials, and ask people for them. Because on the hard days, when I thought about giving up, or when it was especially challenging, like having some of those to look back on, I'm like, well, at least I helped this one person, right? Okay. And looking at my kids every day, I look at them, and our life is a hot mess. But they wouldn't be here if that one woman, had not spoken to me about nutrition. If she hadn't helped me go, I was macrobiotic vegan at the time. Like, they would not even be here. And I start to think, like, how many other women were told that message, that they couldn't do anything about it, and they don't have this tremendous gift that I have by being able to see my kids and live in the crazy. So 20,000 students later, we've finally gotten to a place where we can just focus on our nutrition classes and really pour in. We have community support. We have doctors and venues that want to support us. And there's this magical thing going on with all this new awareness on plant-based nutrition and vegan eating and all of the amazing reasons for going this way. And so we have founded My Dream, is called Food Save Me Institute. So we have a nonprofit so we can just teach even more people and have a broader audience. Okay, so that was trying to get everything in, but ultimately my message is Food for Life classes are the ultimate partner for health-minded business. And so if you're looking to make a business out of it and you want to teach your classes for free, then or low cost or whatever you want to do, it's if you can find a product that you feel good about that aligns with it, people will naturally ask you and seek you out once they realize that you're a resource who just wants to help people. Okay, whoops, let me stop that. I hope that was helpful. I didn't even see the chat. I don't know if there's questions in there I need to answer. Do you want me to look at, or do you want to do live?
That was so great. Yeah, that was great, Kathrine. Thank you so much. I think that was super, super inspirational for us to hear.